Welcome everyone joining tonight, class of 2025, and parents. Thank you for joining us this evening for our curriculum night presentation. We're excited to bring to you the next steps in your Brebeuf Jesuit enrollment journey. We're so excited to have each of you here as we shared a few weeks ago at the showcase. It's a particularly exciting year for our class of 2025. Coming in and getting themselves prepared and situated. Today, think of it as the next level of detail of, okay, now I know I'm coming to Brebeuf. What do I do next? Or there might be a few of you out there who are still making that decision, and that's okay too. This will give you some more details about the next levels of what you'd be doing next, and maybe the chance to ask some questions if you still have some in this process. So we've got a great panel of folks tonight to bring you some information. It's going to be a lot of information. There's a lot to think about when you're thinking about your courses and all your logistics and entering high school. But the best news of it is that we've got a lot of different ways we're going to bring you this information, and to help make sure you got access to it and can have your questions answered. We've got, besides this presentation tonight, which will be recorded and shared with you, then we will also have access all the time to a one-stop shop website, which you'll hear about tonight, called Brebeuf 101, and lots of contact information for different individuals who can answer all sorts of questions for you. So I'm going to introduce the people on the screen briefly. I'm going to actually let our staff introduce themselves in more detail when it comes to their part on the agenda. And our staff with us tonight are our two assistant principals, Ms. Jen Lemaster and Mr. Corey Pettigrew, as well as our Director of Academic Counseling, Mr. Alan Glunt. And again, all these folks will give you a further introduction to themselves when it comes to their turn. And then we're also lucky enough to have two students from the class of 2022. Two of our juniors this year will be seniors next year, serving as role models for the class of 2025. And I'm gonna introduce them by name and then let them introduce themselves. Just tell you a little bit about themselves, because we have them here tonight to give you kind of a student perspective on this information, kind of the real story from the students themselves, about putting themselves in your shoes as incoming freshmen, and giving you their wisdom. So we'll start with Ms. Christiana Vernon. Christiana, could you please unmute and just introduce yourselves to our group here? Just a little bit about yourself, what you're involved in at Brebeuf.
Hi, my name is Christiana Vernon. I am a junior, so I'm a part of the class of 2022. I am also the vice president of our BSU. I'm a part of our pre-law club and our speech and debate club, along with our swim team.
Awesome, thank you for being here. And Lawrence Cohn. Lawrence?
Hi, my name is Lawrence. I'm a junior as well. I'm part of the track and cross country team. I'm on student council, and I'm a part of conservation club, investment club, DECA, and the running club.
Great, thank you both. So for our format tonight, I'm going to start now by sharing my screen with you, sharing the slideshow we'll be using to take us through our information tonight. And we will have, like I said, a lot of information we're going to throw at you, and then the presentation portion should take no more than a half hour, probably a little bit less. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers from all of you using the chat. You can submit questions using the chat at any time, and those will be there for us when we get to the Q&A part. As each of us go through this agenda, we'll ask some questions of our students, Lawrence and Christiana, to give us some perspectives on some things as we go, and we'll all be available for the questions at the end. So before we get into it, I'm going to use the same prayer that Father Bill used last session we had together, the showcase session a few weeks ago, one you should get familiar with coming into Brebeuf, St. Ignatius's prayer for generosity. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, teach me to be generous. Teach me to serve you as you deserve, to give and not to count the costs, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for any reward, save that of knowing that I do your will. Amen. Okay, so the first thing you might be wondering on what next year is going to look like as a freshman at Brebeuf, what classes will I take? What options do I have? What choices do I have to make? What's already laid out and set for me? And so to take us through what the basic freshman options are, what the schedule looks like of courses, and what advice you can get this spring, really before you're even done with your 8th grade year, you'll get a chance to meet with with academic counseling and to get some advice from them on your course path and your 4-year plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alan Glunt. As I mentioned, Director of Academic Counseling. Mr. Glunt, could you please introduce yourself and then take them through our sample schedule?
Appreciate it, Mr. Van Slambrook. Thank you for the great introduction. Again, my name is Alan Glunt, and I serve in the role of Director of our Academic Counseling Department. I am in my 6th year in this department as an academic counselor, and in year number 1 as the director. So we're blazing a new trail here. So I want to just thank everybody for taking a few moments tonight to spend some time with us. Hopefully we can give you a good look of some things to consider and the things that'll put some of your questions at ease. And I'm kind of looking forward to giving you some insights here. One of the first things I want to make sure that you have a look at is what a sample schedule might look like for an incoming freshman. Okay, so we're going to give you 2 examples. The first one on the screen now is what it might look like if your student enters Brebeuf and doesn't take any summer school leading into the school year. Okay, so you're going to see we have a standard 8-period schedule. And you're going to see you're going to have in period 1, you may have your English course. Period 2, your math course. Period 3, the world language that your student selects. A social studies course in world history. Period 5. And then if your student doesn't take any summer school courses, they would take one of their PE credits one semester and their digital applications and responsibility credit the other. Okay, that's in period 5. Okay, period 6 might be if your student is enrolled in a full year of band, orchestra, choir, or our learning center. This could go here. If your student's not planning on participating in any of those year-long visual performing art courses or being enrolled in our learning center, this would be where their break period comes into play. Okay, at Brebeuf, that tends to be a period where students can utilize on their own to get homework done or meet with teachers or, meet with friends. There's a lot of activities that go on during the day at school where students can have some time to get organized themselves. Period 7 may be their biology course, and then period 8, they may have religion. Again, this is in no particular order. We don't know how schedules will shake out quite yet. And so they'll differ from student to student. But the main thing with a no summer school schedule for an incoming freshman is if you don't take PE or dig apps and responsibilities in the summer, they fit pretty naturally into your student's schedule without doing so. And so the big thing for summer is if you're thinking of exploring some additional electives that you'll get, again, some more information on coming up later, taking PE or digital apps and responsibilities gives your student the flexibility to do so. Okay, I'd like to kind of compare this with what's it look like if your student does take physical education and or digital applications in the summer. We'll see a lot of the same information, periods 1 through 4. In that period 5 class where PE and dig apps were at, now maybe that becomes their break period. Or if they're in the learning center, it might become their learning center period. And then in period 6, we're filling that with a visual and performing art elective, maybe a computer science elective, maybe some other physical education type electives. Again, you're going to get a better look at what those might be down the road here. But the big thing is what summer school allows students to do from a scheduling perspective is give them more opportunities to explore electives. Freshman year, the set of electives that'll be available to you is not quite as expansive as it might be in their later years. So it's important to think, if I'm going to take summer school, I need to be prepared to select an elective to take. And again, some of these examples may be, maybe I just do one or the other. Maybe I just do PE and I choose one single semester elective, or maybe I'm going to do a full year of band and I need to select both. Okay, there's different ways to do it. And the academic counselors and the members of our academic leadership team that are going to be available to meet with you in the coming months will be able to provide you more details and guidance on kind of what that process looks like and how different schedules can come together. Now, from our department in academic counseling, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to the members of our department. Again, there's myself as the director of the academic counseling department. We have Mrs. Raven Ashworth as one of our counselors, and also Mr. Ryan Sprague. We are in the process of adding an additional academic counselor to our team. And hopefully by the time we start up next year, we'll be at a full 4-counselor settlement down on our end. So again, we're still in the process of getting that ironed out. From an academic counseling standpoint, one of the main things that you're going to get with working with your academic counselor is someone who is in the building, readily available to work with your student during their transition to Brebeuf. Okay, we're going to be meeting with students every 8 days or so. Again, on the 8-day block rotation, we hold a freshman seminar course, which all freshman students will take. Okay, it's kind of a small group setting. It's not an academic course, but it is a helpful way to get your student acclimated to all the ins and outs of Brebeuf. We're going to spend time creating and discussing their 4-year plan, talking about graduation requirements, talking about diploma types, making sure we can get them connected with clubs, extracurricular activities, different ways to be involved. We're going to talk with them about the importance of meeting with their teachers. And one of the greatest things you're going to begin to experience about our schedule and the way that our days are constructed is the availability of our staff and teachers to our students. But we also understand that coming in as freshmen, that might be a foreign concept to have to seek out help in a class or want to go meet with a teacher. And so we talk with our students and we work with all of our freshmen on building those skills and learning how to approach teachers in a constructive way and to get any additional assistance they might need academically, social, emotionally, or even just with their peers. And so you're going to have dedicated staff in our department who are really getting to know your students in and out of the classroom. Of all the grade levels that we work with at Brebeuf, our freshmen are the most that we are interactive with. Okay, your student's academic counselor, once assigned, will be the same counselor they have for 4 years at Brebeuf. So we're going to be working with them again on their academic planning, making sure their schedules are set, discussing the importance of balance, stretching themselves in some academic areas, but also allowing themselves opportunities to explore the other great things that Brebeuf has to offer. So as we go through this process, there's more information on the Brebeuf 101 website under enrollment information. You're going to see some projected alphabetical splits of who your student will be assigned to in academic counseling. I will say that split is still a work in progress as the class of 2025 fills at the school, and while we also work through the hiring process to get our department fully settled. So the splits that you'll see may not be fully set, but we'll be communicating more information out as we get that. So again, as you see, this is a great point in time where Colleen and Mr. Hogan in admissions have poured hours and hours and hours of time in working with all of you through the admissions process. And now that you have arrived and you are here and you are with us, we in academic counseling like to kind of take that baton to be able to assist you with any questions that you might have throughout the onboarding process. So again, on the Brebeuf 101 website, underneath enrollment information, you're going to see some of the projected alphabetical splits of who your student may be assigned to. You can contact any of us with any questions at any time. We're more than happy to kind of help direct you in the right area of the school to get your questions answered, or we'll be able to get you all squared away ourselves. And so then the last piece that I'm going to go through is coming up in the month of April. The academic counselors, along with some additional folks on our academic leadership team, are going to be available to meet with every single incoming student and their family to discuss what their schedule may potentially look like, answer questions as it relates to placement tests, answer questions as it relates to the information that we discussed tonight. Okay, begin the early discussions of what 4-year plans can look like and different academic goals that your students may have. And then again, get into a little bit more detail about what our freshman seminar class looks like, that every freshman student will have the opportunity to be enrolled in. Now that information and the ability to get registered for the meeting with your academic counselor and or the member of our academic leadership team who will assist in those meetings, that'll go live on March 1st. Again, there's more details on Brebeuf 101 under the enrollment information about, depending on where your last name falls in the alphabet, who you can reach out to set this appointment. between myself and Mr. Sprague in the academic counseling department. We also will have Ms. Lemaster, who's on this meeting, one of our assistant principals, and a Brebeuf parent is going to be available to meet with students. Our Dean of Students, Brenda Adams, is going to be available to meet with students. And also Mrs. Pollock, our school social worker, is going to help us in covering some of Mrs. Ashworth's students that may be assigned to her. Post spring break, she's going to be on maternity leave for a little bit for the remainder of this semester. So we still have her information up, as many of the students that will be listed in her alphabetical split, she'll still have those students. But Mrs. Pollock is going to help kind of cover. She's a Brebeuf alum and has worked at Brebeuf for a long time. So we've got a great team of people assembled to be able to meet with you, talk about the Brebeuf schedule, talk about your students' interests, and be able to give you some upfront guidance on kind of planning what your freshman year schedule will look like and get you all acclimated to joining our Brebeuf community. Again, you're going to be hearing more information as we approach March 1st on how to get registered for that appointment. Those will all be held virtually. And we've got some different timelines there. Somewhere between April 6th and April 16th, we're going to be making some afternoon and evening and even some weekend times available for you to spend 30 minutes kind of getting questions answered and getting some more direction on questions that you might have. And so again, I greatly appreciate having a few minutes here to introduce myself and our department and hopefully kind of get you all squared away on a few items as you join Brebeuf. And I think at this point, I'm turning it back over to Mr. Van Slambrook.
Mr. Glunt, those counselor appointments are going to be on Zoom, right?
Correct. That'll be kind of the same, same format we'll get with Mike.
Thank you. Let me pause and put a question to our students. How about Christiana? Christiana, when you think back to your freshman schedule and as you came in and made your freshman schedule, what do you remember about it, and what advice do you have to incoming freshmen on thinking about their schedule?
It was different. I don't know. I can't really see everybody, but I don't know a lot of the students, but I came from a public school and then I went to private. And so that was different in itself. Everything was different. The literature that we read, the math was different. The fact that we speak in Spanish for a majority of the class, or that our teachers speak in Spanish, was extremely different. I ultimately loved my schedule. I will never forget Intro to Religion. I had Connolly, which a lot of us have the same freshman teachers. A lot of students get the same freshman teachers, but you will absolutely love Connolly without a shadow of a doubt. He's definitely a freshman teacher. I took gym during the summer, which I highly recommend. You're going to be outside anyway. I would recommend not waiting until the fall, because some things are outside and that is cold and it's not worth it. But I took gym during the summer and it gave me a chance to meet a lot more people. Typically the classes are pretty small. Our classes are pretty small as is. And so that was an even smaller class. And so we were all together struggling in the heat, and it definitely bonded us all, especially when we have to run the mile in the heat. I did mention the heat, right? I loved it though. I had a lot of fun. It was definitely a transition for me that was made easier with the staff and the teachers that you do have. Overall, the one thing that has always stuck out about Brebeuf that would be different from any public school that I attended was the relationships that you form with your teachers. And it genuinely does start your freshman year when you are introduced into a whole different community, because that's exactly what Brebeuf is. It's a whole community. It's a gigantic family that shows up for everything. And that is what I took away most. And so that is what I would advise you to look forward to most, are the relationships that you'll be forming with your teachers and other staff.
Great advice. Thank you, Christiana. All right, I'm going to keep us going. Next topic that we're going to talk about. So we're going to need some information from everybody coming up pretty soon here. And this is also going to give you the chance to start planning your summer. We've talked a little bit about summer school already, and we will a little bit more down the agenda. But right now, I just want to call your attention to the next step that we're going to need from you. If you've already filled out the enrollment form, which is due March 1st, a week from today, then you've completed that step. If you haven't done that, then you need to do that to get to the next bullet on there. The form that we're going to need from everybody there in mid-March is called the Freshman Course Request and summer school form. It will be sent to everybody's email who's already filled out the enrollment form. It's going to be sent on Friday, March 5th. And then you'll have a couple weeks to get it done and submit it. And we need this form from everybody. And it's got a lot of information on it, and it gives us a chance to get some information from you to start that scheduling process. Even before you come in, it'll give us some background information for when you come in and meet with your counselors. And will help give us some selections for you, like your language choice and things like that. I'm going to stop share for a second, and I'm going to attempt to show you this enrollment form if I can successfully pull it up. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties earlier, and if I can't pull it up tonight, then I will just describe it to you, and then you'll be able to figure out your way through it once it comes. But let me try this one more time. No, that's not it either. Okay. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. Okay, so what I am just going to describe in verbally to you is the what this form is going to include on it. Let me pull the screen back up again, the presentation. Man, I'm really coming across as an amateur on running this Zoom, aren't I? Sorry, everybody. Okay, here we go. So on this form, you're going to have, you're going to be asked to give us first your language choices. Language choices at Brebeuf, as you've probably heard, include French, Spanish, Mandarin Chinese, and Latin. You're going to let us know which of those you are interested in taking. It's going to give you some information, and I'll point you some information in a second about some honors course options. There's a couple where we just want you to indicate whether you have a preference for, remember on this list, you could take English 9 or English 9 honors. We're going to ask you to let us know if you'd like to take English 9 honors, and same with world history or AP world history, to indicate on that form if you're interested in AP world history. For those courses, then we'll use an internal process with the data that we already have in order to make those placement recommendations for your schedule. The other courses where we have placements for our world language and mathematics, and on that form, we will just give you some information about how that works. And I'm going to share some with you here right now. And again, there's going to be a lot more available to you on a website because there's going to be some placement tests that we're going to ask most or all of you to take in late April. And the course selection form will just give you the information about that. And then there will be a later sign up for that since it's more than 2 months out. But the way it works for mathematics is that we want all students to come in and take a math placement exam, depending on what your math background has been. We have the most course options in math. We have several for freshmen, and it can be the most complicated one to place properly because students have come from so many different schools with so many different types of math that they take in 8th grade, different paces and things like that. So all students will take either what's called the Algebra 1 Mastery Exam. If you've taken a full high school Algebra 1 course, you'll take that to potentially place out of Algebra 1 and into the next course, Algebra 2 here, or Honors Algebra 2. Or if you haven't taken a full high school Algebra 1 yet, you'll take what's called a Math Skills Exam, which will allow us to place you in any of a couple different math levels in the freshman year. So you can learn more about that in Brebeuf 101. You'll eventually sign up with a sign-up form that's going to come out to you in the next few weeks to take a placement exam in mathematics. If you're continuing with a world language you've taken in middle school, we'll also recommend that you take a placement exam to place into a higher level of that and not start from scratch at the beginning again. So there will be placement exams available in all the languages if it's something that you've previously studied, and we recommend everybody that studied a language before and is continuing with it at Brebeuf come in and take that. So again, those are the only 2 placement tests. Now, for those of you who are returning parents, sometimes over the years this has changed. Currently, there's the only 2 placement tests that students need to think about. The only 2 subjects are in mathematics and in world language, because in Honors English 9 and AP World History, we're asking you to indicate your interests, and then we'll use data that we already have from you for your application to make those placement recommendations. There will be 4 dates for placement tests, as you can see there in front of you if you want to get an early mark on your calendar. And like I said, there will be a registration form that will come to you later so that we know when you're coming and can get our spaces ready and all that kind of thing. You only have to come and take a mathematics test and a world language test if you're continuing with the same world language. So 2 tests at most here. So we recommend a lot of you just come pick one of those 2 Saturdays and knock them both out one after the other. And that's how you'll do the placement. So there will be information about that on this course request and summer school enrollment form. And then, of course, as the name suggests, there is also summer school enrollment on that form. And that's where you enroll in summer school. So you can start making your plans and locking in your spot in it now. Again, the 2 summer school courses that we offer are PE and digital applications and responsibility. Those are what you'll hear a little bit more about from Ms. Lemaster in a second. But each of our summer courses are 3 weeks in length. And you can take both of those classes in one 3-week session, one class in the morning and one in the afternoon. Or you can take just one of the 2 classes, or you could take one in the first session and one in the second session. 3 weeks in June is the first session. We take a break for the week of 4th of July, and then 3 weeks in July is the second session. So that'll be something that you're asked about in the on the course request and summer school enrollment form as well. And that'll kind of lock in your spot and help us to plan staffing and how many sections we need of those classes. If you could get that done by March 20th, that deadline, that'll allow you to make sure you've got your spot in the summer school class if that's something that you're wanting to take. In addition to the summer school and the placement options, there's a place in there to indicate elective choices. So remember, you have, if you're taking a summer school class or 2, you have a chance to indicate some arts or PE or computer science electives in your schedule. If you're not taking any summer school classes, you probably won't need to do that. But if you are, then we're going to ask you on that course registration form, give us preference 1, 2, and 3 on these, I think, 8 or 10 electives that we have available for freshmen. And the names of them are pretty self-explanatory on there. There's ones that are in music and the visual arts, in theater, in computer science, as well as in physical education. So you'll give us some choices on there. Sometimes those, space is limited. And so that's why we ask you to give us a few different choices in the elective choices slot on that form that you're going to get on March 5th, the course request and summer school form. So 3 main parts of that form: information about placement tests and honors courses, information about and registration for summer school, and putting in your requests for electives if it's something that you're going to end up taking in your schedule. That'll allow our counselors to take that information and start to build your schedule. Though your schedule won't be finalized until May and June, after you take those placement tests, after we get back to you the information about our recommendations on placement. There's continuing information about this. Don't worry that by doing this form, then you lock yourselves into things that can't be changed. We continue to work with you through the spring and into the early summer, and schedules are sent out to students in June. Once all that information is processed and communicated back with you, there's lots of information to come. Lawrence, I'm going to ask you a question now that I talked a lot about honors and AP courses and things like that. What's been your experience at Brebeuf in terms of honors classes, non-honors classes, choices to make there? Some students, I think, often ask how many honors classes are too many to take. What's your advice for incoming freshmen on that, Lawrence?
I would say to just be sure that you're taking something that challenges you, because the worst thing that can happen is just you have like a relatively boring class. I wouldn't say that like the teachers are boring. I'm saying just the content, like you want to make sure that you're challenged in that sense. And I definitely say all the suggested placement tests that you should take them, because they're really a good way to get an idea of where you should be. And you don't need to worry about like acing them or anything like that. I thought I completely messed up my Latin placement exam and I ended up in Latin 2 freshman year. And it's just a good way to figure out where you should be. And I mean, I get that it would be a concern to, overbook yourself with difficult classes freshman year, but I really think as long as you, do what's suggested and you just gauge it from the beginning of the year, if you need to move classes, your teachers will help you with that. And your teachers will also be very available if you have any troubles with class. So I'd say kind of err on the more challenging side just to keep it interesting. But in the end, it's what you decide. So just whatever you think would be best for you. So.
That's great advice. Thank you, Lawrence. I did not feed him that answer, but that really perfectly expresses our educational philosophy around challenging yourself as much as is doable and healthy for you. But then also flexibility. And as we get to know you personally, and this is why we have these counselor meetings early on, and the opportunity for there to be kind of a lot of conversation and understanding about what's right for me. And then also know that the way that we set up all of our honors and the different paths through different courses, it's not like it locks you in, like if you don't take honors English 9 that you can't possibly be in any more honors English for the next 3 years. It's very common for students, for example, to not be in honors English 9 but then to move into honors English 10, or to not be in honors English 9 and 10 but to move into AP English in their junior year. So we have a lot of flexibility among the different paths in that way too. Okay, I am going to turn it over to Ms. Lemaster. She's going to introduce herself and just say, I know we've said several things about summer school so far. She's going to give you the last bits of information about that. Ms. Lemaster.
Great, thanks, Greg. Yes, my name's Jen Lemaster, and I think this is my last curriculum night where I'm the only parent on the panel, because now we've got some other young people coming up. So I have graduated one in the class of 2017, and I have a current sophomore right now, and they can't be more different from each other. Those of them who knew them. So, I've been at Brebeuf for 14 years. Assistant principal for about 8 now, and it's been kind of exciting to see the school as someone in the IT department and now in administration, as a parent, and even as a classroom teacher. So I saw a question in the chat about mixing up summer schools and all of that. Again, my children were very different. My daughter did not take any summer school. My son took one course. He just wanted to Christiana's point, take summer school in the summer when it was, hot, and just get it out of the way, make some friends. The classes are smaller. He learned, well, he knew where everything was because I've been dragging him to school for years, but it was a good entry point for him, where my daughter knew everything she needed to know in the universe at 14. So there are a lot of reasons to take summer school. If you are a veteran parent or you've had other students go through like me, we now have the room, like Mr. Van Slambrook said, in the schedule that you don't necessarily have to take summer school to give yourself time to take band, orchestra, choir, or learning center. You certainly can. And again, it gives you that flexibility to explore other electives, but you don't absolutely positively have to. There's still room. Your child, even if they're taking 8 courses, will still have 2 40-minute PRTs and a 30-minute lunch every day. So we've slowed that pace down a little bit. There's your dates for summer school. AM runs from 7:30 in the morning until 11:30 in the morning. We have a half-hour break, and then noon to 4. So some students, if they take both, they get that half-hour lunch break. It's a busy 3 weeks to do both, but it is very doable. Some students, like my son, just takes one session at one time in one time period because he really wanted to take a theater class. That was just him. The 2 classes, as you've heard, PE, digital applications and responsibility. I saw someone in the chat asked what that was about. So it's an entry-level computer science course that all students are required to take, in part because we're a one-to-one school and we have a heavy tech presence in the building. So we want to make sure that students are comfortable with the tools that the school will give them, and also understand the rights and responsibility of having these powerful devices on their person during the school day. At all the time. And then it also starts exploring some coding things, and they build various and sundry contraptions using coding and try and get them interested in STEM and the computer sciences. Both of them are really fun. Both PE and digital applications are very project-based in the summer, so it's kind of neat to sit together. I know it sounds 4 hours in a classroom sounds absolutely miserable to you students, but you really are doing things. I mean, PE, to Christiana's point, you're running, you're playing, you're going bowling, and digital applications, you're coding and you're creating presentations with the other students. So they're as much social as they are academic. Lawrence, we didn't get a chance to ask you, did you take summer school?
I did. I did the double up with PE and Digit.
So you did both. What did that free you up? Did that free you up then for some electives you wanted to take?
Yes, I remember. I know one elective I took was drawing, which I really enjoyed, and I think that's a great idea to take a summer school class, because I think, you know, throwing in an elective like some art credit is a good idea, both, you know, on your class list, and also just to have some fun during the school year.
Yeah. So. Christiana, what did it free up for you? You said you took PE and it was hot. I remember. It's always hot.
You brought up bowling and I forgot all about that. That was so much fun. I don't know how different everything will be with COVID and everything like that, but being on that big old bus, because once you get here, you'll really miss buses and how good it feels to be on a bus. I forgot all about bowling. That was so much fun. Thank you.
I bring up bowling because I'm kind of jealous.
Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. And I had Wako, and so she's like competitive. It was great. Especially when we did like racquetball. She's a beast. It freed up a break and a PRT, but I did electives. I loved taking piano. And so that is kind of what would have filled up any free times I would have had. I just filled them up anyway.
That's so awesome. And you just brought up something, and I wanted to say something. I see, Micah, yes, the PRTs now are protected in the schedule, so that's really nice to let you know that you've got that time. And I'm just checking my list of things I wanted to make sure. The registration you will receive, that hasn't gone out yet, so that will be coming in your inbox. And as soon as you can let us know, like Mr. Van Slamberg said, it helps with some staffing things to make sure. And we really do try. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Christiana, you brought up with COVID protocols. In summer school, though, our classes are smaller. They're always smaller every year. So we fully expect to do summer school in person. We were able to do summer school in person second session last year when the schools reopened, and it was fine because we limit the class sizes. Applications runs about 13 or so students. PE in each group will put about 13, 14, so we can actually have students in the building. If we are still social distancing at 6 feet, that is not a problem in the spaces we have. So do plan that these will be in person. And I think that's it. I will hand it back to Mr. Van Slamberg.
Thanks, Jen. And last but not least of our panelists, Mr. Corey Pettigrew, other assistant principal, is going to tell you a little bit more about the Brebeuf 101 resource. Mr. Pettigrew.
Thank you, Greg, and welcome, families. You know, tonight you received a load of information and dates and deadlines and forms, and I'm sure some of you guys are asking yourselves the question, you know, do you have to memorize all this? Do you have to commit all this to memory? And that is absolutely no, you do not have to. We have what's called Brebeuf 101, which has been referenced a few times already this evening. Each incoming family will receive a link to the Brebeuf 101 website, which will detail, remind, reiterate all of the info that's been covered this evening. You can basically call this your one-stop shop for full onboarding for your students and families that are coming to Brebeuf in the summer or the fall. Included on there, you'll see placement test that's been discussed earlier, counseling appointments, as it says there, scheduling available March 1st, so just a few days from now. Also, in regards to technology, we have BYOT, bring your own technology. And we're a pretty flexible school when it comes to a student's technological preferences. We just want them to be comfortable and familiar with whatever type of device platform they are using currently. We have students who use Chromebook, tablets with keyboard, Apple products, Windows, so on and so forth. So we just want to make sure that students are comfortable. So we are a very open school when it comes to technology use in terms of the device that the student prefers to use. We also have approximately 85% of our student body are involved in some form of athletics, and we do encourage that. And so with Brebeuf 101, There will be a number of dates and deadlines, including team registrations, information about physical forms, summer practice schedules. And these updates, however, will not be available until April. Okay, but you will certainly be able to find that on the Brebeuf 101 webpage. But also in regards to athletics, we do have a gazelle and a dolphin with us tonight as students. We have one swimmer and one runner. So Lawrence and Christiana, can you just share with the audience tonight, what has been your experiences with our athletic teams here at Brebeuf thus far and the benefits of it? And just how do you balance all of this even? What about you, Lawrence?
Well, I think that the cross country team is great. I just want to say that, and I very much suggest you join. But I mean, it can be a little bit difficult, you know, with practice and homework. But I think as long as you use PRTs correctly, and you know, if you have a break, if you use it during the day to get some homework done or study, I think it can really help you with your schedule, and it's not that big of an issue. But yeah, and I definitely suggest, you know, whatever sports you might be interested, definitely try them out at least freshman year, because freshman year I played soccer, which I didn't continue past freshman year, but I still got to meet a lot of people and make a lot of friends that I still hang out with now. So I really think the sports are a great way to, I mean, be physical, be competitive, but also socialize and just have some fun after school.
Absolutely.
Piggybacking off of what Lauren said, it is a great way to have fun, and it's something that is good to do at school. And if your sport is your passion, it will be a stress reliever in itself. I swim, and if anyone wants to swim, you're in the pool for at least 6 days a week from like 4 to like 8. And that within itself sounds like an entire thing, but it goes by really fast. And to my benefit, my coaches were graduates of Brebeuf, and so they understood the curriculum behind Brebeuf. And so a lot of times you might have time sectioned out for homework, or you have time before. And luckily with our school, the PRTs are amazing times to get that homework done. I'm sure probably as you go up in the grades, the more homework you'll get. But luckily your freshman year, you won't really be bringing home homework unless you're doing other things with your PRTs and other responsibilities, of course. But it's a great way to make friends. The one thing I do love about Brebeuf is that we don't have any grade barriers. So just because someone's a senior and you're a freshman doesn't mean that you guys aren't going to interact. You guys aren't going to talk. You guys can't be friends. I'm friends with seniors and freshmen and sophomores and other juniors as well. And so with sports comes that, especially if you're good at your sport, you're on the varsity team with your upperclassmen. It's a way to interact with everybody at the same time.
Yeah, that's great information, Lawrence and Christiana. I mean, we do provide those supports for our student athletes just to make sure, especially in terms of scaffolding, starting off as freshmen, to be able to provide them with those supports to be able to balance their academics and also their athletic load. So thank you guys, appreciate that. So again, you will be able to find all that information in terms of athletics on the Brebeuf 101 webpage. In addition to band, orchestra, choir auditions, those are coming soon. You can find those, cafeteria payments, new student orientation, and much more. Oh, and also in terms of just being updated regularly, you will also be receiving emails. And so not only on the Brebeuf webpage, but you better believe we will be sending you the important dates and deadlines that are coming up as they come along. Just some key dates to remember, your enrollment form. I see a few parents had questions about that earlier, but as soon as possible, by March 1st, please. In terms of your optional appointment with your academic counselor for scheduling concerns or scheduling form, online opens March 1st as well. Freshman course request and summer school form, which is required, will be emailed to all families by March 1st, complete please by March 20th. And your placement test dates on your calendar, April 22nd, 24th, 29th, May 1st, and please look for that information on email in terms of test registration. And I think that's about it, and I'll kick it back over to Mr. Van Slambrook.
Thank you, Mr. Pettigrew. Yeah, I want to reiterate one thing. We did have several questions come in on the chat before I get to the rest of them about the enrollment form. I think my terminology might be confusing people there. The enrollment form is what you complete to secure your spot in the class of 2025, and you pay your deposit at the end of that form. So if you've already done that, you've done the enrollment form. That's done. And the deadline on that, if you haven't done it, is a week from today, March 1st. And so we'll be resending that this week to anybody who hasn't completed it yet, but who is in the admissions group. And you will still have a week to complete that. Then once we know that you're coming, then you get this on March 5th course request and summer school form. So the enrollment form is something you should all already have. And many of you have already submitted it. The class of 2025 is, the numbers are great. We're really excited about the number of students who have already enrolled in the class of 2025. So I hope that clears up. That's the form that you should already have. That's the one you've already seen, already received, and most of you already filled it out. Okay, I'm going to stop my screen share for a minute here, and it's 7:20. We won't go past 7:30 for sure, but I want to make sure we cover some of the questions that have come in on the chat. And if we don't get to yours, make sure you know you can always email me directly at gvanslambrook@brebeuf.org, or any of the folks who are on this call. This will be recording will be available to you, and you can see from the presentation that I had up the different email contacts on there. So I'm going to go through and just try to say out loud. I know those of you at home can't see the questions. I'm going to try to pick out some ones that I don't think we've addressed yet, and either I'll take them or I'll kick them to somebody else. So first one is, what is the main difference between honors English and regular English? So I know that when we talked about honors classes and placement tests, you probably had a lot of questions going through your head. It's like, how do I know what is the right one? How do I know which is the right challenge for me? What's too much, etc. We'll have detailed information about each of those things on, you guessed it, Brebeuf 101. So there's a whole page that our English department has put together that says what's the main difference, or what are the differences between honors English and regular English. I won't do it justice if I try to quote the whole thing, but in a nutshell, honors English is for students who are really confident in their writing skills, that they have some maturity in being able to develop their essays well. Students who like reading and are ready to read at a more dense pace and to do some higher level analysis are going to find themselves in the right place in honors English. In regular English, students' writing skills are going to be really focused on. They'll also read great works of literature and discuss and analyze. But it's especially bringing students up to speed on having excellent writing skills, which is the foundation for everything they do in English, is what we do in the regular English class. Is probably a focus there. Let's see, for a couple summer school questions, we've already answered summer school will be in person, not virtual. Question is, will students have to wear masks during PE in summer school? It's a little early to make any guesses about masks for anything that far in advance, but what we did last summer was that when they were outdoors and socially distant from each other in the activities, which they were able to do outdoors, then they could take their masks off for those different physical activities. And then there were a number of physical activities that we were doing indoors where students were masked. So we've had a lot of success with our masking procedures at school. I wouldn't be surprised if those are still in place in the summer, but when you're outside, you've got the advantage of being able to, our teachers are used now to keeping students socially distanced, and you do have mask breaks certainly during the time in the summer. Even if you're doing the indoor class, the computer science course, the digital applications and responsibility, teachers are used to giving their students regular mask breaks during those times. Another question about schedules and PRTs. If a student chooses not to take summer school, will there be time for the 2 PRT times or not? I want to understand the built-in PRT times as it relates to a full course load. So in our new schedule this year, we did block out PRTs as only free times, as completely free, although this year they've had to be staggered because of COVID purposes, but everybody has PRT times available. However you end up with your schedule, you have 2 PRTs each day that are available to go see your teachers, and all the things that you've already heard about PRTs. Additional cost for summer school, I'm sorry we didn't mention that. That is in the course selection form. So yes, there is a cost for summer school courses. And it is, I'll take this opportunity to reiterate, the summer school is not required. It is optional. It's popular, but it's not required. And so it is an additional cost program. The costs, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's on that course enrollment form, and you're basically adding that to your bill when you register for a summer school course. Let's see. There are a couple of questions about Learning Center, so I want to reiterate or clarify if you haven't heard a lot about Learning Center yet. If you are scheduled to be in the Learning Center as one of your courses for next year, you probably already know it. You applied for Brebeuf and checked the box that said I'm applying for the Learning Center program. The Learning Center program is learning support period for students with diagnosed learning differences. And in the course of applying for Brebeuf, you submitted your psych ed profile and your learning support needs and accommodations, and we process that with your application. So if you think you might be interested in learning more about the Learning Center, but didn't already go through that process in the application, please do reach out to myself or to Colleen or to an academic counselor, and we can walk you through that process. It's not that it's too late necessarily, but it is one where students qualify for the Learning Center based on having a full psychoeducational evaluation and having a diagnosed learning difference. I know that IHSA has a moratorium week in early July. Some schools have a second moratorium week over the summer. Does Brebeuf? Yes. So we schedule that moratorium week is required for all athletic programs in the week before July 4th. July 4th is on a weekend this year. And the week before is the IHSA moratorium week. And it's also the week that we take a break between summer school sessions. So we do that on purpose so that if you're planning a summer vacation, that week before 4th of July is a great time to do it. If you're involved in athletics and summer school, you know that none of it's going to be happening that week. So it's the week before July 4th is the IHSA moratorium, and it's also the week that summer school does not meet there in between the first and the second session. A lot of people often ask, how do I know which summer school to take and how it's going to line up with my athletic practices? Our athletic department always answers that by saying you should prioritize your summer school schedule first over your team workouts, because all those team workouts are going to be optional at that point in the summer. However, I know it's also important to a lot of kids to be involved in their team as much as possible. So what I recommend you do, if that is important to you, is to reach out to our athletic department through the contacts that you'll see on Brebeuf 101. Ask what's your best guess for what's the right summer school course for me to take if I want to play basketball this summer, if I want to try out for the freshman basketball team and all that. And they'll be able to give you advice on that case by case. We don't have the schedules available for all sports yet, and so they're not published, like Corey said, until April. But we can help you with that if that's something that you want to plan around. But also know that no student who is missing practice or team workouts because of summer school is going to be penalized in any way by the team for that. Let's see, a couple other questions on. Oh, there was a second moratorium week was was involved in that question. So there is the IHSA, I think, I forget, Alan, do you know, do they call it like light moratorium or something like that? There is a second moratorium week that's about a week or two before school starts. And we also observe that in athletics, of course. I just don't remember when it is. Do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I don't know the exact dates this year either, but it's a regular occurrence.
It's usually a week or two before the school year starts, or it's like 1 week before cross country starts. I forget exactly, but it's basically late July, I believe, usually. So we'll have that information available to you on those April schedules. You'll see them in the athletic schedules once they come up. Question: when school starts in August, will there be hybrid? Also too far in advance to know. I would bet that we'll all be able to be there in the fall, but I certainly cannot guarantee it. From the way all the trends are going, you know how these things go by now. You can't guarantee it, but I would bet and hope that we'll all be able to be in classes together, and not hybrid, but all full time in August. But we still have a long way to go before I can say that with much certainty, and we'll do a lot of communication with you as that becomes clearer, as things about the different COVID safety policies like mask wearing and things like that are clarified for how that's going to work over the summer and the fall. You'll hear a lot more about it. But if I had to bet right now, I would bet that we'll all be able to be there in person when school starts in August. Is there a PE uniform that needs to be purchased? No, PE is just casual. Actually, all summer school is pretty casual, right? Lawrence, Christiana, it's like you pretty much wear what you're comfortable with in the summer. So that's one of the benefits, I think, of being there. It's a little bit of a more casual atmosphere. Let's see. Question about timing with respect to financial aid, submitting forms and finding out about the level of support. So most of you would have already received financial aid information with your Brebeuf acceptance and in an email that came with your acceptance news. If you still have some things to be determined on that, if that wasn't in there or if it wasn't clear in there, if you have follow-up questions about it, then contact our business office. The contact information for Melissa Grabowski is our point person on that. Melissa Grabowski, if you write that name down, I don't have her number handy, but you can find her on our website, or just contact the main desk and ask for it, or contact Colleen and she'll steer you in the right direction. So most of you should already have financial aid information in front of you in making this decision. But if there are still follow-up questions to be made in this next week before registration, deposit, enrollment, then we can certainly take care of those during this week as well. Summer school logistics question. If you're attending this example is an overnight summer camp amid summer. So a lot of people have things going on over the summer where they, okay, can I miss a day or two or a week of summer school? The answer is our policy is you can miss a day of summer school, and but with a 3-week course, 15 days, missing more than one day is going to really set you at a disadvantage. So occasionally we can work out, swaps for a few days here and there, depending on which few days they are and how they line up in the curriculum. The general summer school policy is you can miss one day and just have one absence from summer school for pretty much any reason and still complete the course. If it's going to be more than that, then you're going to need to reach out to either my office or the summer school teacher directly as the course is getting started, to figure out if those arrangements can be made depending on the situation. So we'll always consider it and try to work it through case by case. But in general, plan on, if you're signing up for summer school, plan on being there for the 3 weeks. If you have to miss one day for an appointment, or if you've got one extended weekend thing and you're going to come a day late, we can deal with that. That's no problem. But if it's more than that, it's going to be tougher. Is lunch offered on campus during summer school for students taking both AM and PM classes? It is during the June session, but I think not during the July session. Is that right, Jen?
Yeah, July tends to be a smaller group. So there will be places where you can eat, the cafeteria, the physical location and the microwave, but we usually do not have food service, just the June session.
Thank you. Okay, I promised you we would wrap up at 7:30, and so I know we still have a few questions that we haven't gotten to in the chat. Please feel free to follow up with me or any of us directly. Remember those key dates coming up. And again, Brebeuf 101, since I know we threw a lot of information at you, Brebeuf 101, and we're going to still be emailing you stuff each kind of week as things are coming over the next couple months. You will get a lot of information from us, as Corey said. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. I hope this gave you some good clarity and just some ideas of what was coming and some decisions to be made and things to talk about, and feeling prepared for the next steps. I want to thank especially our students, Lawrence and Christiana, for joining us tonight. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you to everybody who's involved in this on the staff. And we look forward to seeing you around Brebeuf very soon. Thanks so much and have a good night.